Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 250 of the Juicebox Podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Omnipod, Dancing for Diabetes, and Dexcom. You can go to dancing4diabetes.com, dexcom.com/juicebox, or myomnipod.com/juicebox to find out more. Welcome back, everyone. Today on the program, Carly. Now, Carly has had type 1 diabetes since she was a child. She's on the program today to talk about a number of different things: an eating disorder, how it develops, and how she got past it, the role her parents played in her diabetes care, some of the organizations that she reached out to as an adult, a hypoglycemia study she's involved in. I came super close to calling this episode 1 + 1 = turtle, but instead, I present to you, everything doesn't have to be perfect. Please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise, and to always consult a physician before becoming bold with insulin or making any changes to your healthcare plan. One last thing. I listened to the emails and the messages, and there are t-shirts available again. Just go to juiceboxpodcast.com, scroll down, you'll see a big image that says merch on the front. When you get to that link, you'll see the new podcast logo with Be Bold on the back. A t-shirt that says Stop the Arrows. One that says Bold with Insulin. Mugs, flip-flops, bags, stickers. There's so much to choose from.
Hi, my name is Carly, and I'm from Minnesota, and I'm a 23-year-old diabetic of 15 years.
Okay, so 23, so you're still in college?
No, I actually graduated in May.
You just got done. Okay. And for 15 years, so since you were how old?
Do the math on that, seven, I think.
I was trying to get out of doing the math, and I thought you would just know. So you're diagnosed at 7 years old, and is this something that your parents were involved in most of the time?
Initially, yes. When I was 7, they did most of the taking care.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say probably once I started giving myself my own shots when I was like 12, it kind of just got handed mostly off to me.
So from 7 to 12 and beyond, tell me a little bit about what the idea of managing a day looked like to you. Like, were you trying to keep your blood sugar at 85? Were you trying to keep it anywhere? Was it all over the place? Did you not track it that tightly? What kind of technology were you using? Give me a big overview of what your day was like.
Yeah, so when I was first diagnosed, it was kind of like, I stayed within 80 to 180. And first of all, I was terrified of insulin shots, and I would not do them myself when I was first diagnosed. So I didn't want insulin at school at all. So I would do the long acting in the morning and then have obviously fast acting in the morning too. And I'm not really exactly sure how it worked, to be honest, because I didn't get insulin shots at school at all, but I was still able to eat lunch. So I think, and I would test my blood sugar and be, within 80 to 180. And if I wasn't, then my mom would come give me a correction.
Dancing4diabetes.com. Dancing, 4, diabetes.com. When
I got home at the end of the day, I was still in normal blood sugar. So to be honest, I don't really know exactly what insulin I was on that allowed me to do that.
As you were saying that, does it start sounding screwy to you? Because
yeah,
right. And it's funny how at the time you were just like, this is what we're doing. So you didn't want to give yourself an injection at that age, and there was no one at school to do it, or you didn't even want anybody at school to do it?
I would only let my mom do it. So I didn't want anyone at school doing it. And I think I was also still honeymooning, and I know I honeymooned for quite a while because I did not have a whole lot of insulin for the first probably 2 years of diagnosis.
Okay.
So maybe that was after that, because my whole elementary school, though, I didn't get shots at school. So yeah, it must have just been, I was probably high after lunch and I got home and I was fine.
And if you got over 180, your mom would make the trip to the school and she would inject for you?
Yeah, usually, yeah.
Did that happen frequently in your memory?
No, not really.
Okay. All right, so I don't think we're ever going to really know how it is you got through your days, except to say,
Yeah, I don't.
and that's interesting, right?
I should really ask. Yeah, I should really ask. But I don't know how. I just know that that's how it was, and I until middle school, I never even gave myself shots at school. So yeah.
No kidding. And now when you turned 12, did you just magically one day say to yourself, I can do this now?
Kind of. It was more I wanted to go to sleepovers and not have to have my mom come and give myself insulin. I remember the first few times I had sleepovers, she would come and give me, come super early in the morning and then come super late at night and give me insulin for whatever snacks I was having and stuff. But after a couple times of that, I was like, I want to try to figure this out. So then I did, and that's when that started.
So necessity was the mother of your invention. You were just like, look, I don't need my mom showing up at these like social events anymore. So I'm gonna figure out this needle thing.
Yes, that's what I did. And I was terrified of just stabbing myself in the arm with just a like normal injection needle. So we had this thing called a shotties. It was like you put the needle into the shotties and then you just click it and then it releases the needle without you having to stab yourself.
So I've heard of that a little bit, but I've never seen one. But you had, so there's a huge phobia going on for you then.
Yes,
like
definitely.
Really big. And do you feel that way now?
Actually, kind of, because I have obviously my insulin pump, but the Medtronic, but the other day at work, my insulin pump came disconnected and I had nothing with me because I just wasn't thinking when I left the house. So I had nothing with me. I luckily work at a hospital. And so one of the nurses was like, well, use the little vial in your insulin pump and then use one of these needles and draw out some insulin and just give yourself some insulin and just kind of keep doing that until you can go home. Cause I was halfway through my shift and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Except for I hate needles. So I was like, can you give me the shot? And she was like, yeah, that's fine, but that's weird that you can't give it to yourself. I was like, yeah, I haven't done this in like 10 years probably.
So I have a couple of thoughts around that. But first I have to ask you, what sort of work do you do at the hospital?
I am a nursing aide. I graduated with a degree in biology and I want to go to physician assistant school.
Okay.
So yeah, so right now I'm just trying to get direct patient care hours and I'm working as a nursing aide.
Are you able to give other people injections?
No, we are able to. I do a lot of blood sugar checks, but I'm not able to give them insulin.
So the rules don't allow you to. If the rules allowed you to, do you feel like you could do it?
Yeah, definitely. I have. I have gone to diabetes camp and had to give kids shots, and I can do it to other people. It's just myself. I don't know.
No, don't be. First of all, don't apologize or be embarrassed because trust me, I'm getting to this for a reason. So when the nurse or somebody who helped you at work that day did it, it didn't hurt, right?
No, not at all.
And cognitively that if you did it, it wouldn't have hurt either.
Yes.
But there's just something between that thought and the action of doing it. You really are like stopped by. It's so interesting. How are you with putting your pump on?
That I'm perfectly fine with too, because it's like I just press a button and it's so I think it's the sight of seeing the needle go in. Just I don't know why it freaks me out, but it does.
Have you tried turning your head and not looking?
I have not done that.
Close your eyes, just like swing it in the direction of your thigh and see what happens. I think there's
I could do it.
I think there's a game to be made of figuring out how you're able to do this on your own, because it sounds to me, right? It sounds to me that you are able to do it. There's just whatever the sticking thing is for you. Maybe it's visual, like you're saying.
Yes, that could be. Yes.
This is great. So Arden doesn't. I don't think Arden's ever given herself an injection.
Okay.
I honestly don't. And I'm, to say that we haven't used them in a really long time is, since she was 4 probably with any consistency. But I don't think like when she was 4, maybe she did it a few times. But I don't think if I handed her a needle right now and I was like, hey, do this, I don't think she'd be like, yeah, right on, no problem.
Yeah, definitely.
And she can manage her pump fine, take her pump on and off and do all that. There's no problem with that at all.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mind game. Just like doing it to yourself, at least, like doing it to other people, it's easier, but to yourself, it's just a mind game.
What do you think about so your mom was like, look, I'll come to the school and do this for you. Do you think that if she was just like listen, I'm not coming to the school. You're going to go in the nurse's office and do this. Do you think you would have done that, or do you feel like you would have been like, oh, honey, you're not winning this game. They're just going to send me home. Are you really
I was
hard-headed, I guess, is my question.
I was stubborn when it came to diabetes stuff, so I would probably have just cried, and then she would have been like, "Okay, I'll come do it."
Yeah, I see. I hear you. Yeah, I don't. When my kids cry, I just like look at them and I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna stop, right? Like this has gotta end. I don't want to be a part of this." Okay, so I just wanted to go through that a little bit because I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel that way, and I'm sure there are people who are giving injections for people and asking for people to do it that don't want to or feel like they can't. I don't think there's any shame in it. Obviously, you're managing just as well. Um, now, in your note to me, you said that around 12 years old, your parents sort of passed off the care. Like you learned how to inject, like you've just gone over. But then that sort of took them out of the loop. So you were now making insulin decisions when you were 12?
Yes, basically. I would say maybe not right when I was 12 was I making the decisions in terms of like how much to give myself. I would still probably ask.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't the best at counting carbs, quote unquote, but I so I think initially it was just kind of my mom would dose them for me and then I would give them to myself. But probably like as soon as for sure high school is when I did make all my insulin decisions, especially because around 13 I got an insulin pump, so that's when I started really making all my decisions.
Okay. And so, I don't know if we're burying the lead here or not. So you've at some point in your life developed an eating disorder around diabetes?
Yes, I would say high school is when that started, and I didn't really even know it was an eating disorder when it first started. Like I just kind of I guess there's no really pinpoint when it started, but I just started putting two and two together that I wasn't giving myself a lot of insulin and my blood sugars were always high and I was losing weight, and then it just kind of I just kind of went into a downhill spiral after that when I actually started realizing what I was doing. And then into college, it continued until probably my second year of college. But being a bio major, you kind of, it's not that I didn't realize it before, but being a bio major especially, you realize how bad it is for your body and how much I wanted to make a change and to be healthy around diabetes.
Okay. So let's kind of, if you don't mind, like unpack that a little bit and go through it. So in the beginning, it was just if I left my blood sugar higher, I'd lose weight. Was that
Yeah.
the starting point?
Yes, I think that, and also there was also a part of it too that I was also very active. I was on track in dance team, and I didn't want to go low. I didn't want to have to go low and be not a part of that. So keeping my blood sugar a little bit higher, I was able to obviously not go low. And so initially it wasn't I was always 400. It was initially I was just kind of floating in the high 100s, 200s, and being okay. But it wasn't. I guess later on it started being it would be more higher in the 400s, and it got even worse.
No kidding. Were you not eating because of this, or were you eating more? Like what what was that piece of it like?
I think at the beginning, when I again wasn't really realizing what I was doing was making me lose weight, I was kind of not eating as much. I was more the classic eating disorder symptoms of like more anorexic, just not eating a lot at all. But then once I started realizing that, I just don't take insulin, but I can eat things, then it started being I would eat whatever I wanted to and just have really high blood sugars. So I guess it was a little bit of both.
Did you find yourself in DKA ever?
I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. I do not know how I was never in DKA. Like I probably was in DKA, but I never was sick enough that I actually went into the hospital.
Okay.
So I don't know how I never ended up being super sick.
And then tell me too, when you go to your endo appointments, I'm assuming you were going to reasonably regular endo appointments, right?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Yeah. As soon as my parents are lovely people, but they were not pressuring me in terms of diabetes at all. And so I would go, I would not go regularly at all. And when I would go, I would be very defensive, and my endo, kind of knew something was up. Like, obviously I have a, 13 A1C, there's something up. And at first, my first endo kind of passed it off as she's, non-compliant. She's a teenager, she need to do better control. So let's just try just bolusing a little bit for these meals or whatever. Let's just try. I don't think he was understanding that I had an eating disorder at all. But then I went to a second endo because my insurance changed, so I had to go to switch to different endo basically. And she knew what was going on totally, and she figured me out and kind of told my parents or my dad at least while he was there, about possibly that I had an eating disorder, and I was just totally rebellious against it. I do not, and I freaked out. And then after that, I don't think I went to an endocrinologist for 2 or 3 more years.
Okay.
Because I just didn't want to face it.
Okay, Carly, you're saying a lot here. So first of all, I want to thank you because there have been hundreds of people on this show, but only a handful of them ever have to dig into stuff like this. And these are really valuable conversations, and you're brave to have it with me. So first of all, thank you very much.
Yes, it's definitely a very important thing to talk about.
No, absolutely. It seems like there was a couple of components here, right? The first one was that your parents weren't exactly dealing with you like, hey, look, this is something we do every 3 months. We go to the doctor. You get some sort of whatever the doctor does. They make, adjustments or suggestions, and we're going to keep doing this. That just wasn't part of your life. And I'm sure it's not part of a lot of people's lives, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was just very defensive about the whole thing in general. And I think my parents just kind of were like, whoa, because I'm not a defensive person in any other ways in my life. I'm very, I'm just not that kind of person. So when I started being super defensive and just, kind of angry about the whole thing, they just kind of stepped back and were like, whoa, like, I'm sorry, like, we'll let you handle this. Like,
yeah. So there's this, if I've mentioned this before, I apologize, but it fits so well here. I spoke at a hospital in the recent past, and endocrinologists, nurse practitioners came up to me afterwards because I had mentioned how I'm involved with Darden's care. And they thanked me when it was over, saying that it was very important for the parents in the room to hear that, because a lot of parents think that this is just something they don't need to be involved in. Or sometimes they don't want to be, or for whatever reason, they distance themselves from the care and leave it on children who are quite honestly too young to really, understand.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely both perspectives. Like, the parents, like, I see, because I go to diabetes camp, so I see the parents that are very, like, on top of it, and then the other parents are kind of like, oh, they'll be okay, they'll be fine. And some of them are very responsible, but then some of them aren't, and it's just like, I want to help them and be like, just try to mentor them while they're there, and because I know that when they go home, I don't want them to end up like I did and not have as much guidance, which is unfortunate.
Right, because somebody said that about you. Oh, she'll be fine, and you weren't fine. And
exactly.
And what now you're only, I don't want to say only 23, but you're only 23. So you don't have children. You haven't been out in the world in the fight yet. So
yeah, not yet.
Right. So you may know this through your experience now, or maybe don't have the perspective yet, but there are always going to be parenting moments when it's not easy, it's not fun, and your kids hate it, and you still have to be there and do that thing with them. And there's, obviously there are things that kids can avoid when they're in their own time, if they're at school. We're talking about diabetes, but this could be anything. You could be telling your kid, look, don't smoke a Juul, and the kid still sneaks away and does what they're going to do. But I think that every time you see that Juul, you still have to be the person who takes it from them and puts some sort of a consequence in order and works through it. It becomes touchy and scary when it's about a health thing,
Exactly. Yes. And I think also parents just, I guess from my perspective, my parents just didn't want to hurt me, but they didn't realize in the long run that not helping hurt me more.
Yeah, they were just trading easier now for worse later.
Exactly.
Can I ask you, do you have any feeling for what you for what would have been valuable from your parents in that moment? Like, what did you need? Consider pod therapy and say goodbye to needles and pens. If you have diabetes and your body requires insulin, you need to know about the Omnipod. It can make your diabetes a smaller and more manageable part of your day-to-day life. People with type 1 or insulin-requiring type 2 diabetes, along with caregivers of both children and adults with diabetes, are choosing the Omnipod because of its simple, smart, and discreet design and functionality. Now, there's a lot of claims in there, right? How are we going to know for sure? How do you make a leap like this? It's a big deal. Just give up on what you're doing right now just because the guy on the podcast said so? No, I wouldn't expect you to do that. Here's what you can do. You go to my link. It's myomnipod.com/juicebox. There's also links in your show notes, in your podcast player, and at juiceboxpodcast.com. So if you can't remember it, there's places to go to click on it. When you get there, you fill out the tiniest bit of information about yourself. When you do this, Omnipod sends you an absolutely free, no obligation demo pod. They call it a pod experience kit. Comes in a cute little box. That kit allows you to put an Omnipod on your body. I know so many of you that tried the demo pod and are now very happy Omnipod users. myomnipod.com/juicebox. The link's in your show notes or juiceboxpodcast.com. Get a free, no obligation demo of the Omnipod. Try it on today. You see what you think. You like it, you keep going. You don't like it, you don't have to. The choice is completely yours. There's no pressure, no obligation, absolutely no reason not to just try. myomnipod.com/juicebox. Do you have any feeling for what would have been valuable from your parents in that moment?
I think they kind of realized what was going on, so I think I needed someone to just come alongside me and just say, hey, like, I know that, you're defensive about this, but I think that if you don't want help from us, we need to bring you to an endocrinologist, or we need to find another T1D that's your age that you can talk to, or someone, because I literally had nothing. So just to have that support would be really helpful. And for sure, I'm not blaming them at all. Like, for sure, like they didn't know what to do. Like, I'm also their only child, so like it's not like they've had practice in this before.
Right.
And so yeah, so I think just going alongside kids' guidance and just letting them know that you're there for them, or they can help you find resources that could help them.
Yeah, they didn't have a practice kid.
Nope.
One they could just mess up and go, hey, that was our first one. This is not our fault. You were the practice kid. And so, Yeah, look what they figured out from practice. No more playing. I hear them. Okay, so try anything, do something. If that doesn't work, do something else, but don't give up. And I think the message for parents needs to be that just because kids push back doesn't necessarily mean they don't want you there. There might be other reasons why they're pushing back too. And for you, it could have been anything. It could have been your fear of needles. It could have been that you just didn't want to have diabetes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think for me specifically, I think it was perfectionism. I wanted perfection, and diabetes was not perfection. So if I just ignored it, then it wasn't there. And I could just continue living my life and being perfect in other aspects, like not going low at dance practice, or not going low when I'm trying to study for a test or whatever.
Yeah. How do you end up working your way through something like an eating disorder? And are there things that parents can look for in their kids that are kind of hints that something like that's going on, besides the elevated blood sugars and the A1Cs that seem crazy out of whack and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think, well, for things that you can look for, I think just not, I guess avoiding food, or having specific things that they want to eat, I guess, are classic eating disorder signs. Also kind of being, I guess, depressed in general. Obviously teenagers can have anxiety and depression, but I think especially around like diabetes and eating. And for me specifically, how I worked through it, it took me a long time to really realize that, like I said, that I even really had an eating disorder. And then after I did, it took me a long time to figure out how to solve it. I didn't go through classic like treatment, going to a treatment facility. Going back, I wish I would have, but in college I was just like, I'm too busy, I'm going to figure this out myself. Mm-hmm. And so what really helped me was I first of all, becoming involved with the College Diabetes Network, I found our chapter at the University of Minnesota and kind of came affiliated with them, and then ended up going on a retreat. They have like a leadership retreat every year where they have leaders from chapters around the country meet together, and for a week you kind of get to be with all these T1D leaders and learn about new technology, learn about things that you can take back to your chapter. And that week kind of changed my life. That was 2 years ago now. Yeah, 2 years ago in May. And we still have an active group Snapchat that we literally every day is always blowing up with people, sending each other graphs of their Dexcom or whatever, just talking about general things that we're frustrated with. And just having that connection, even though they're not obviously living in Minnesota, having that connection of people and constantly talking to them and seeing how they're keeping track of their diabetes really helped me. And also, aside from that, I learned of an organization called We Are Diabetes that is focused on specifically type 1 diabetes and eating disorders. And the founder of that, I kind of came in connection with, and she came alongside me and kind of mentored me a little bit too. So I think just having connections to diabetes things and being around people that are keeping good track of their diabetes really helped me.
Yeah, community, right? Just knowing someone else is there, being able to bounce something off of somebody, showing somebody something that's not perfect, and them going, "Oh yeah, that happens to me too," and that feeling that everything doesn't have to be perfect, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Were you like that in your personality about other things, or did that idea of perfection just live in the diabetes space for you?
Oh, definitely about other things too, about school, about any sport I participated in. And yeah, I'm very perfectionist, which has its good qualities, but also its bad qualities.
I know. I might be married to a person like you. I understand what's going on. So a lot of this isn't quite right, not quite good enough, like that sort of thing. Do you think it was a learned behavior? Did somebody show you how to be like that? Or do you think that it's just sort of hardwired?
I don't really know, because my dad is the most easygoing, like fun person in the world. Like everything's a joke to him. And then my mom's not a perfectionist either. She's not as easygoing as my dad, but she's definitely not a perfectionist. So I don't really know. It must be hardwired from past
something.
Past relatives or something. Yeah.
I was just wondering. It's interesting because I know from my wife, it's a family trait. Like it's definitely something that is in the genes. And so I was just wondering, but that's super interesting. Okay, so you get yourself on a better path, and you do that through, it sounds like, through community and support and everything, which is fantastic. Did you have any lasting medical effects from the disorder, and is it something you still fight with today? What does maintenance look like?
Yeah, I actually did not have any lasting. Well, aside from my vision, I had 20/20 vision before this all happened, and I have glasses now. But that could be from not having good diabetes care or just other things in general.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not like I have terrible vision; I just have to wear glasses.
Right.
But other than that, I really have no residual effects from it.
Okay.
And it's definitely still present. Not anything like it was, but I would say in terms of like fear of going low overnight, like, which I don't know, it's not necessarily an eating disorder thing anymore. It's just that I'm so used to not going low overnight that like I freak out when I go to bed below 120. I would say like I need to eat something before I go to bed because I don't want to wake up low. And I think that's just because for years and years I was used to that.
Yeah.
It's definitely become much better. And I would say actually listening to your podcast has helped a lot, because this summer, every time I would go out for a walk or whatever, I would listen to your podcast, and listening to other people kind of have the same issue where they don't want to bump and nudge and go a little bit, have their blood sugars run a little bit lower, kind of inspired me.
I'm good. I'm glad. That's excellent. So hearing other people's stories got you kind of like revved up, and how did you put that into, like, once you had that momentum and you were feeling like, hey, I would like to do something more like what I'm hearing about other people saying, what's the first step to that? It's got to be the overnight stuff, right? Like that's got to be your biggest fear, I would imagine, because you do live by yourself.
I don't right now. I did when I was in college, but now I live back with my parents until I find another place.
No, please. I would stay there as long as I could if I was you. I'm all for someone paying my rent still if someone wants to show up and do it. So don't rush around for that. Plus you sound like you have bigger plans. So just, as long as they
Yes.
think you're moving towards something, I'm sure they'll leave you alone.
Yes, I would like to move out, but I will take advantage as long as I can.
Yeah, good for you. Plus, you're in Minnesota. I mean, most half of the year, can you even go outside anyway? What's the difference? It's just like a meat locker there, right?
Okay, well, kind of. Yeah, today it's hitting the 20-degree level, I think, so it's kind of warm outside, but
It's 20 degrees. Listen to what she just said. It's 20 degrees. It's kind of warm. You live in a place where you can walk on a lake. Just let's stop, okay? It's not natural. But seriously,
you can also ice skate.
Ice skate. Yeah, no. Please, my brother lives in Wisconsin. He told me when he moved there, because he's from where we're from. And he's like, guys I work with invited me to go ice fishing. And I was like, what is that? And he explained it to me. And I'm like, are you going to do it? And he goes, I don't know. I don't know how I can't. Like, we all work together. He went one time. He's like, it was insane. He's like, they lit a fire on the top of the lake. And I was like, right? He goes, it just burned. Nothing happened. It's like 9 feet of ice. It's like, come home right away.
I could see how that could seem really weird to someone that's never done that before.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, you're darn right it is. But so when you let me ask you this. Prior to coming out of high school and you come to college and you find the College Diabetes Network and you find yourself some, stability. Where are you at, like A1C, average blood sugar wise in college? Like, what were your goals, like day-to-day goals, and how did they end up, like, kind of grading out, I guess, at the end of the 3 months? Although someone's going to get really mad that I said grading out, but it's a term. Just, we'll all be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the first year of college, I definitely didn't go to the endo at all. So I don't know what it was. It was probably still 12, 13.
Mm-hmm.
Second year of college, it started when I actually kind of started trying to figure stuff out. So when I went in, I think the first time it was like 9.6 or something like that.
Okay.
And then recently, I guess the third year of college, into fourth year of college, I got it down into 8. And then last time I went in, it was 7, which was at the beginning or when I got back from Vanderbilt. So that was like, I guess, the end of the summer.
Congratulations.
And I'm going in next month. So.
So good.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you should be incredibly proud of yourself. I'm sure you are, but you don't need me to tell you that. But that's a really amazing accomplishment in a very short amount of time on your own, coming from where you came. That's spectacular. And you don't shy away from food, and you don't overeat to avoid lows and all that sort of going.
Yeah. I definitely am someone that, since I do kind of strive for perfection, I do kind of eat only regimented or not certain things because I know how to bolus for them, but I'm definitely expanding my horizons in terms of figuring out how to bolus for other things.
Good for you. Well, this is very exciting. Now, listen, I think it's important to say to people listening that I think Carly's story is shocking. Like, if you don't live this life, or if these things have never kind of, crept up in your life, I would see where hearing them might be like, wow, that's insane. But I don't think that your story is that uncommon, Carly.
Yeah.
I don't at all. And have you met other people who are in a similar situation? I don't know if you have or not, but I'm just interested in, like, a diabetes camp.
So it's kind of interesting because I have not, like, specifically met. I've, like, through We Are Diabetes, like, I've talked to, like, the founder who had eating disorder, and I guess met multiple people at the College Diabetes Network that kind of went through an eating disorder phase, but not extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting because I do work at the hospital, and I see so many people that are around, between the ages of 18 and 25 that come in with DKA. And obviously not all of them have eating disorders, but a lot of them are not. Some of them you can kind of just tell do. And I just want to, like, I know at my position, I can't step up and be like, hey, like, I want to help you. But it's frustrating that I can't say anything, but I do see a lot of people at the hospital that are going through that same thing. So it kind of makes me realize that, yeah, my story is not, a lot of people are going through this.
Right. And I think that goes for most people. Like, whatever it is that your story is around diabetes, it is probably not so dissimilar from other people. And it just, I think somebody put it to me. I'm trying to figure out a way to say something. Somebody put something to me one way recently that I didn't know 100% what to make of it, but they said, I would bet that people who listen to your podcast are either the people who are, really quote unquote good at it, or the people who are really struggling and hoping to get good at it. And I was like, well, isn't that everybody? Like,
Yeah.
aren't there just variations of that in between? But still, I think that when I hear you talk, I can sit here and think, well, this could easily happen to my daughter, right? Like this could absolutely easily happen to her. And you wouldn't think that would be common, for her situation, but who knows what goes on once she takes over her own, care a little extra. And I think it's just incredibly kind of you to offer your experience so that everybody can kind of look up and say, I wonder what's going on in my life that maybe I should be paying more attention to, or what does my kid need that I may be acting like, oh, they're fine, and maybe they're not,
Yeah, definitely. That's why I want to share my story, and I want to let other people know that, because when they hear that other people are going through the same thing, I wish when I was going through it, I would have had resources like this, or hear someone else's story and been like, wow, that's me. Like I need to try to reach out and try to figure out how to handle things.
Yeah. So okay, so let's talk a little bit about like today, like in right now in now time, which is not a phrase commonly used in English at all. What would that be called? The present. There we go. Unbelievable. Carly,
words are hard.
Maybe I've done too many of these podcasts. I just said now time. It's making me laugh. So you have a pump now, glucose monitor? Yes,
I have a pump. I have a pump right now. I have the Medtronic 670 and the sensor. I really don't like it. I'm actually on a clinical trial right now not for a glucose monitor or anything, but I'm wearing a Dexcom for the clinical trial, and I'm in love with it, that it connects to my phone and that it connects to my Apple Watch. It's amazing. So I'm going to try to switch to a Dexcom, but I am currently on Medtronic.
Oh, Medtronic people, you must be so sick of turning on this podcast and hearing people say, I don't like my Medtronic CGM. But you had no choice. You live in Minnesota, which I believe is the headquarters for Medtronic, aren't they?
Yes, it is. So, literally, when you go to the endo here, everyone, up until like probably a year ago, everyone had Medtronic. Now they're kind of figuring out that maybe Medtronic is not the best. But up until a year ago, like literally every kid, we didn't even know what like Tandem was or Dexcom was.
How difficult could it be to trick a person who thinks that spending a day standing on a frozen lake fishing through a hole is a good idea, right? Like it just has to be so easy. Like hi, this is the only insulin pump in the world. Oh, it is? Thank you very much. And then you just take it. It probably has a sticker on the box that says won't freeze during ice fishing, which then right, makes everybody there go, oh, this is the best insulin pump. It won't freeze.
The perfect insulin pump, yeah.
I'm walking on water. But no, I didn't know that. I just, I know it bears saying every once in a while in a couple episodes, I didn't ask you what kind of pump you had when you came on. You offered that information up. I didn't know you were currently using a Dexcom on a trial. But this is totally where I'm going to put the Dexcom ad right here. Yesterday, I took Arden and two of her friends to a small shopping district nearby our home. Dropped them off so they could have a nice day together. Arden was armed with a few things: an Omnipod insulin pump, a juice box, her meter and test strips. But only one thing made the entire trip simple. It was the Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor and its ability to share Arden's blood sugars with me remotely. I just dropped them off and left. Kicked them right out of the car. I was like, hey, get out of here. Go have fun, you crazy kids. As Arden was getting out of the car, I said, look, I'm not sure if walking around in this heat is going to bring your blood sugar up or down. As soon as we see what's going on, we'll make a decision. Her blood sugar was 91 at that moment. The walking around actually, can you guess, drove her blood sugar up a little bit. So she used her Omnipod, put up a little temporary basal rate, continued on with the day. Then they went to a restaurant for lunch where Arden had macaroni and cheese and salad. We were bolusing, and when we missed on the bolus a little bit, we were able to put in more insulin. Why? Because the Dexcom showed us the direction and speed of her blood sugar. It showed us that we missed a little bit with her meal insulin. So we put in more. Now, the more almost helped. We got her to 150 and it leveled off. And just as it leveled off at 150, what did Arden want to do? Well, her and her friends found a cupcake shop. We were able to bolus at the 150 aggressively enough. Keep in mind, these are our results and yours may vary, but Arden's blood sugar did not go up during the cupcake from the 150, but down, settling in again in the mid-80s. All of that, I'm going to talk right past the music. All of that is because of the functionality of the Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor. Direction, speed of your blood sugar. Super important. Just as important, the ability for her blood sugar to be shared with a loved one, in this case, me. You want to make good decisions about your diabetes? Start with this one. Go to dexcom.com/juicebox and get the G6 continuous glucose monitor. Tell me about the trial you're doing right now.
Yeah, so it's really interesting actually. So it's about people that have hypoglycemia unawareness, and recently, as I have started getting my blood sugars in better control, I will go out for a run, and also wearing my sensor, I've started to realize this. I'll go out for a run and literally drop into the 40s and not even realize it, and then get back and be like, oh, I'm low. And so I've heard of this clinical trial that they're doing. It's measuring basically people that have hypoglycemia unawareness. It's measuring their brain activity when their glucose does go really low. And they think that type 1 diabetics have some sort of compensation or something going on in their brain cells that are making it so their brain kind of says, you go low all the time, so we're just not going to give the normal awareness signs, the shakiness, the feeling sweaty and stuff, because it happens all the time, and I feel like we don't need to freak out about this.
Huh.
So they basically put 4 IVs in you, one in both of your feet, one in both of your hands, and put you in an MRI machine and drop your glucose really low and measure your brain activity and see if there's anything funky going on.
And Carly, for this, you're being paid $1 million a day. Is that correct? Because that's, I think, what I would charge to do that.
I think it's compensation of like $500 a day, so it is quite a bit.
Huh. Fancy. And in Minnesota, that's like $1,500. Right?
Yes.
I'm just kidding. Minnesota's a lovely place. Anywhere cold, really, you're going to hear me speak poorly about. I just don't like the cold. It's lovely, but it has beautiful falls, beautiful summers, and beautiful springs. But yes, the winter is a bit cold. Yes, my brother in Wisconsin says, "Come out and visit, see the lakes." To which I respond, "No," and then that's how that ends. The lakes. We have beautiful lakes. I'm sure you do.
You gotta come in the fall. I think that's what I hear. Time.
One day, I'm just trying to get him to move home. It's been a decade. I'm pretty sure he's not coming. But I thought if I withheld my delightfulness, he'd have to come back for it. But I don't think it's going that way.
He's not catching on to that?
No, not at all. That's he doesn't love my mom. I think that's what I'm just kidding. Oh. We tease him about it sometimes. So I'm like, oh, if you loved mom, you'd come home and live here. And he's like, this is where my job is. I'm like, is it? But it actually is. He doesn't deserve that. He's a really nice person. Anyway, so you're on this study, which is insane, but that's very nice. It's a nice thing you're doing for other people. Plus, you might get some answers for yourself. It's incredibly interesting that you're hearing that it's possible that people who experience a lot of low blood sugars might have a mechanism that tells them, like, look, don't feel like this, because your body spent a long time at elevated blood sugars. So it really adapted to that space. How long, this is something I'm interested to know, after you brought your blood sugars down to a more reasonable place, you didn't even feel it then at that moment, like in the beginning? Like coming from like a 200 all the time down to a 100 all the time, that didn't make you feel oddly?
I think it was very gradual. It wasn't like every day I'd be at normal blood sugars. I was kind of, back and forth. So I think it didn't really hit me that hard. I think maybe the actual lows did. Like, I was not used to going low. So, if I was below 70 at all, like, I was shaky, I could not function at all. Yeah. But eventually, that kind of disappeared, and I now sometimes can't feel my lows.
Wow. But you've never become incapacitated?
Never, no.
Never. So you're functioning. Do you look back and think, I wasn't as cognitively sharp as I thought I was in that moment, or does that not even change?
Um, like when I'm like running and I'm
Yeah,
cool
like
low.
say you go for a run and you're low. Do you look back like an hour later and think, "Oh, I just as I was running, I thought 1 + 1 = turtle," or like nothing?
I guess I guess not because I'm not really like I'm just more like have my music playing or listen to a podcast or something. So I usually I don't have to think too hard. So I guess I don't really know. When I get back home, I definitely can tell because I'll start fumbling around and being shaky and be like, hey, I'm probably low.
Okay.
But yeah, when I'm running, I can't really tell.
Carly, are you excited that there's a high likelihood your episode is going to be called 1 + 1 = turtle?
Yes, that sounds like a great name.
Or turtle math? Maybe we'll figure it out. Don't worry, but something's going to happen. I just said that. I wish you could all live in my head for a minute. I just said that, and I thought inside my brain, I thought I've never had that thought before in my entire life. Like, how did that just come out just now? That's why people like the podcast. Who knows what I'm going to say? I don't even know. God knows if any of this diabetes stuff is even correct. I'm just kidding.
That's very true.
You caught me in a good day. I'm a little giddy today, Carly. So, um, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to everyone who's made it this far into the episode. Okay, so right now you said you have an A1C sort of in the 8-ish range that you're bringing down slowly. Which, by the way, I like the slow approach too, like not getting crazy and just going nuts. How's your variability? Like, are you bouncing around as much, or are you, I guess at a 7 A1C, are you like very stable around like 140, 150 most of the day, or how does that work?
I would say, again, it really depends upon the day, but I would say I'm pretty stable. I don't have a whole lot of dropping. I will say when I first started working at the hospital though, it's a lot of just the entire day I'm on my feet running around.
Right.
And so that has gotten me kind of some ups and downs because I'll go low, correct, go high, like just kind of up and down roller coaster. But I'm definitely figuring out my basal a little bit more now. And actually, that is one thing that I do use the 670 for, is it figuring me out at work and figuring out how to change my basal rate because I didn't even know, and it has been kind of helpful for that.
Is it the 670? Is that the one that does the? Is it like an artificial pancreas type one?
Yes, the auto mode.
Oh, it has auto mode.
Yeah, which I at first was very frustrated with and did not like, but after realizing that it could help me at work, I kind of like it a little bit more.
That's interesting. But it targets your blood sugar for what? Like, where does it set at? Do you know?
So I have it set at the lowest setting, which I believe is I think it's like 70 to 100 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it will sometimes be okay with me being 140. 150 even sometimes, which can get frustrating because then you end up eating fake carbs because you can't give yourself just like little micro boluses, so you have to pretend like you're eating something just to try to micro bolus it to get you a little bit lower.
You're tricking the pump.
Yes, which then might end.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I guess that's fair. It's tricking you. It told you it was going to keep you between 70 and 100 and you're 150, so I guess it's fair if you trick it back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, she totally into that because they get frustrated with me. Like, you can't do that. I'm like, well, well, then what am I supposed to do? Because it's really annoying that I, could potentially be in the lower 100s right now and it's keeping me at 150. Like, it's annoying.
Right. I know this is the official insulin pump of Minnesota, but it's not doing a good job for me and I have to figure something else.
Not repping Minnesota very well.
Yeah, no. No, exactly. That's not fair to Minnesota at all. You guys made a wrestler a governor. You know that, right?
Yes, it's Ventura or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, as you know, maybe it is fair to Minnesota is what I'm saying. He's a conspiracy theorist now who lives on a beach in Mexico because he doesn't want to be in the country near what I'm assuming are the people who are coming to get him. So I think you guys did a great job sussing that one out and, onward and upward. But
oh, goodness. Anyway, yeah, let's just ignore that part of our history.
Jesse the Body Ventura. That was his name. Yeah, he's I'm sure he's fine. But maybe he's just saying those things to get attention and have a television show. But I think he's one of those people who believes any crazy thing you might think he's pretty sure might be true. So, good for him. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So okay. So you're using that pump with the auto mode. It automatically keeps your blood sugar at 150. And then so I get what you're saying though. So you pretend you're eating so it'll give you insulin, so it'll bring you down.
Yes.
But then they're telling you can't do that because that throws off the algorithm, which
yes.
I gotcha. But what you're
Yes,
saying is you better hope that this Dexcom doesn't hook up to a pump to make a different algorithm, buddy, because I'm getting out of here one way or the other. And,
yes, exactly. I guess there is a way to like hook up the Dexcom to the old Medtronic and like make your own artificial pancreas or something like that.
Yeah, you just got out of my space. I'm not sure. What are some of the things you're looking forward to? I mean, with your own health as well as like, you know, with your life, like you must feel like you're on a completely different path than you've been on so far.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to, I want to go to PA school and I want to specialize in endocrinology, and and work with people with, diabetes. I actually, I think my whole career path changed after kind of getting in control of my diabetes, of wanting to somehow go into healthcare and help those that have diabetes. And I think realizing that PAs have more time to spend with their patients, and how, you always go to the endo and they're kind of, you get your A1C and they don't have much time to sit down with you. I feel like the PA that I work with at my clinic, you get more time to work with them and sit down, and you kind of get time for them to kind of say, hey, what's going on here? Let's look at your graphs and stuff. Whereas more like a CDE kind of role, whereas endos don't. So I think I'm really looking forward to be able to possibly go into that as my career.
Are you getting better at that? Like for yourself, are you able to start looking at your graphs and really figure out like, oh, I think this is that? And I'm at this point now, I just look and I'm like, oh, I know what this means. And I can adjust it in like 2 seconds. I think. Are you getting to that point?
Yeah, I think so. But also, I think I still have so much variability in my day-to-day activities that I still kind of am figuring out a little bit. But I'm definitely getting better at being able to look at it and be like, you were whatever, like you ate this, you were now 200. You could have bolused for this a little bit earlier, and maybe one more unit and would have been better. But definitely in terms of like running and stuff, because I do run quite frequently, and that's a little bit more of a challenge for me in figuring out exactly. It seems like it varies from day to day what my blood sugars do, no matter what I do for that. So figuring that out.
I've heard, and I'm not 100% the right person to talk about this with, but I've heard some people talking about if they try to get the insulin completely out of themselves before activity, like before working out. Meaning that they haven't had like an active there's no active bolus, even the end of one, and that they can kind of work out forever without their blood sugar kind of dropping from that.
Yes, that is something that I have figured out, that if I have any insulin on board, I'm going to plummet, no matter if I had, a 1,000-carb breakfast, well, not 1,000, but a huge breakfast. It wouldn't matter. Like if I have any insulin on board, I'm just going to plummet no matter what. So I have to wake up. If I want to work out before work, I just have to wake up super early and bolus for whatever I'm eating, and then go work out, or just eat something that has more protein and not a lot of carbs, and eat that, and then just not have to bolus, because if I have insulin, I'm just going to plummet and not be able to finish my run.
Well, this is a little unfair to you, Carly. I'm sorry, because we got a little bit of a late start because of me, but my schedule is super tight today. So I have to ask you if there is anything we did not talk about that you wanted to that I forgot.
I don't think so. I think we kind of hit everything.
I'm pretty good at this.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, yours, I could tell. Like you were. By the way, congratulations. I don't know if you've ever been on a podcast before. Nice and chatty. I liked it. And
well, thank you.
Yeah, no you knew what you were going to say. You got right to it. You spoke about it like you're obviously an incredibly bright person. And so I was like, this is great. I'm just going to sit back and say stupid things about Minnesota unfairly. And so
no, thank you. I was very nervous about what exactly I was going to say. I was like, I'm just going to go for it and just, we'll do it.
Were you happy that went that way? Because you emailed me and you were like, what should I be preparing for? And I'm, of course, no help. Anyone who's ever been in your position knows that I just emailed back. I'm like, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And some people, that doesn't really work for their personality too well. So, but you really did. You went from what are we going to talk about to don't worry about it to doing a really great job. So I genuinely appreciate you taking this time like this.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Dancing for Diabetes has a new space they're working on. They just completed the demolition portion of the construction process. You got to go check it out. It's very exciting. dancing4diabetes.com or on their Instagram or Facebook pages to see those pictures. Huge thank you to Carly for coming on the show and bearing her soul on so many important topics. Thank you also to Omnipod, Dexcom, and of course Dancing for Diabetes for their support of the podcast. I do want to give you two other things here that Carly mentioned during the show. wearediabetes.org is the organization that Carly mentioned. They're not sponsors, but it seemed to be very helpful to her, so I think you should check them out, wearediabetes.org. And it comes up a lot on the show, especially with college-age students, but the College Diabetes Network is at collegediabetesnetwork.org. Also, don't forget the 1 millionth giveaway celebration is underway for the podcast. That is right. In August of 2019, the Juicebox podcast, thanks to you, will reach 1 million total downloads. And I wanted to celebrate with you in a way that you didn't have to do anything. It's a giveaway that you don't have to do anything to enter. So go to juiceboxpodcast.com, scroll down until you see the little thing for the 1 millionth celebration, click on it. You'll see all the stuff that's going to be involved in the giveaway. Omnipod, Dexcom, and Dancing for Diabetes swag. One free item of your choice from myabetic.com. Stay Put Medical is going to give us a gift bag. We'll give you the winner. How about a 30-minute consultation with Jenny Smith? Oh, come on, right? 30 minutes on the phone with Jenny. The winner will also get 2 new Bold With Insulin t-shirts, which if you want to see right now, just go to juiceboxpodcast.com and scroll down to merch. You can buy them now if you want, or try to win the giveaway. And the big prize, depending on how you think of it, could be the prize you don't want. You might end up going, hey, Scott, I'll take all the stuff except for this last thing. But if you do win and you are interested, I'm offering 1 week of unfettered access. You and I can text, call, by phone, FaceTime, whatever you need. Any questions you have for 7 days, I'm here to answer them for the winner. The contest is open to everyone. There are some limitations for overseas. You'll see when you get to juiceboxpodcast.com, but everyone can play. Everyone can enter. It doesn't cost anything to enter. And you can enter once a day for nothing. You don't have to follow me on something or do anything. I'm not going to make you do anything. You do those things if you want to, but I am not going to make you do something to enter. Just go enter. There was 324, I just logged on, 324 entries so far, and you can enter once a day. So you can get I don't know how many days are left in August, but for every day left in August, you can get an entry. Give yourself a better chance to win. That's pretty cool. I just actually refreshed it. There's 326 entries now. You better hurry up and get over there. Thank you so much for listening to the Juicebox Podcast. I hope you guys are having a great summer. Hope you really enjoyed this episode. I thought there was a lot of insight into a number of important issues here. 1 million downloads, new swanky t-shirts. This podcast is really classing up.